parents. The interesting thing is, I know you guys studied the Diary of Anne Frank. My mom was in the concentration camps. They called it the Japanese internment, and some of the things that happened there. But my dad was in the war at the same time. So it's sort of an odd mix on how that kind of a situation worked out. My dad was raised in an orphanage in New York, and my mom grew up in Los Angeles. And then they met in Chicago, and that's where they met and got married. And so their story, to me, it's rather intriguing, but you know, after all, it's just who I am, so. All right, here's the map. This is where my dad was at. He is what's called second generation. And then my mom, she migrated from Japan with her parents by Alaska, came down through Washington, down by this way. And if you look real closely at the map right here for a later reference, the California-Arizona border, see that blue line? That's the river. How many of you ever been to the river before? Anybody to the river? Okay, usually they ride jet skis, boats, or the motorcycles or something like that. Right on that border of the California-Arizona, as soon as you cross over from California to Arizona, like by Highway 95, if you go straight, you're in Parker. If you go left, you go up to Havasu City. But if you turn right, going south in Arizona, that's where Poston is at. That's where my mom was stationed at. They had her there. It was called the War Relocation Center. This is my parents. They were married for 62 years. You don't usually hear that too often now. My mom passed away in 2009 and my dad in 2017, but they'd been married for 62 years. And then this is my brother and sister with my dad. He was in his 90s at that time, you know, getting up in the years, getting pretty old. And this picture right here, hopefully you guys can see it. This is my dad, and that's my sister with her daughter and then two grandkids, which would be great-grandkids to my dad. The reason they brought this one up is my niece had twins, and this twin is named after my dad. This picture here is my two older girls. I have three daughters with my mom when they were small. And then, you know, you see how tall Tasaka is. You can see how short my mom is. She was pretty short. I think she was 5 foot tall, maybe. And that's my youngest right there, Danielle. She works a special ed class in San Bernardino schools. And this is my parents on retirement. They had a good life. They lived out. We didn't have a lot of money. We were very poor in a lot of ways, but we were very content. And I think one of the things that you learn about in Japanese culture is you don't complain a lot. Well, you know, we should do this and we should do that. No, they have a phrase in Japanese that's called monku monku, and that just means quit whining and just do your job. You ever done that before? Complain too much, your parents get mad at you? Well, you quit talking or so whatever. Well, sometimes that happens, but in Japanese culture, they really push that down. That wasn't an issue you complained about. So everybody say this out loud. Say, Issei. 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 Nisei. Nisei. Sansei. Sansei. That represents first, second, and third generation. Why is that important? First generation are the people that came from Japan to the United States. Second generation are the families, the people that were born here. So my mom and dad are second generation. They were born here to Japanese American parents. And then myself, I'm a Sansei, a third generation. So Ichi, Ni, San, first, second, third, first generation, second generation, third generation. So during the wartime, the predominant amount of people here was more Nisei, second generation. That's just sort of how it worked out in that sense. This is my dad with his brother and my aunt. My dad and my uncle both went into the army. They were very young when they went. They're all deceased now, but this was a family gathering where they were at. And they, like I said, they grew up in the orphanage. My dad is the last born. Any last borns here? Anybody born last born in the family? Nobody? One, maybe? No last born? You're the youngest in the family. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm the youngest too, and my dad was the youngest. This is a picture when they were probably in late elementary, middle school. I doubt if they were your age, but around there. How would you like to go to school with these uniforms? No? Yes? Anybody like school uniforms? Would you rather wear your own clothes? I would say yes, huh? Well, guess what? Studies have showed that if you go to school and everybody has a school uniform, they do better in school. Their grades go up. They get better grades. How come? Why is that? Why would your grades go up just because you're wearing a school uniform? No comments? You guys need coffee this morning. No, get yourself awake there. And yeah. So part of the reason is because I know when I was an assistant principal here that we had a student that I talked to. His tennis shoes, now I'm just wearing Skechers here, but his tennis shoes, $400. Anybody here have $400 tennis shoes? Maybe there are a few of you here, you might. Okay, so $400 tennis shoes. And obviously, when they looked at him, they went, whoa, those are whatever brand it was. And they were sort of like, huh? And student, if it was me when I was in middle school, man, if we had, $20 Walmart shoes, that was enough. And, I'd wear a t-shirt and he had a designer shirt. So it would be really difficult, constantly judging, are you the rich, are you the poor, are you the privileged, and so a lot of that thought sometimes captivates or causes distractions in our life, and it affects your schoolwork, and that's what happened here. So technically, it's better back in the day. But my dad with his brother and sister grew up in an orphanage. This is a picture in the war of my dad. So what happened was, as you know, in the internment camps, when 1941 hit and the attack on Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt issued Executive Order 9066, and they removed all the Japanese Americans on the West Coast and Hawaii. They put them in internment camps. And when they did, they stuck him in there because they were suspicious that you might be a spy. In fact, when I was in college, I had some friends tell me, oh, Tasaka, you're sneak attack. I go, no, stop it. I'm not in the war. I didn't do anything like that. But that's what they thought. But on the other hand, my dad joined what's called the 442. And in the 442 was a battalion, it was a unit that was made up of all Japanese Americans, Nisei, primarily Nisei, second generation, and they fought in the war in support of the United States. So it sounds sort of funny, huh? My dad is in the army supporting the United States, and then my mom, here she is in the concentration camps. It's like, what? What's going on? What's the deal here? So that was the kind of the situation there. This is the 442nd Company C. My cousin sent me this picture. She actually lives back east, but she came out to California. They have business in California, in the San Jose area. And so she said, oh, Pete, that's me. I have a picture. I wonder if you can find your dad. Well, there's two halves. You can see this is a book, two sections. I go, how am I going to find my dad in that? Well, guess what? I found my dad. He's right there. He's right there. That's him. There's not a lot of pictures when he was young, so it's hard to really tell a lot. But based on the army photos that I saw, that's him. And I showed my sister, my brother, hey, do you think looks like dad? They, oh yeah, that's it. And then they had a picture for Company G, which is from my uncle. He was in that company. So this is in Los Angeles, current right now. I took this picture a few years ago. It's a Gopher Broke Museum. It's all about the 442, which is what my dad was in. And in the 442, with this museum, they actually show a lot of artifacts. They had books, they had publications, and all kinds of things. Let me read to you what it says right here. It says, rising to the defense of their country, the thousands that came, these young Japanese American soldiers from Hawaii, the States, America's concentration camps. So some of the people they placed in the concentration camps, they placed them there because they said, aha, suspicious. We don't know if you're a spy. Would you like to join the army? Doesn't that sound a little backwards? But anyway, some of them did. And my dad didn't go into the concentration camps. Why? Because he was in New York, 3,000 miles away. The concentration camps, the internment camps, all took place on the West Coast in Hawaii. So he was on the other side of the country, and he wanted to be in the army so bad. He was 17, he tried to enlist and get in, he had to wait till he was 18, but the moment he turned 18, he enlisted, got involved, and then my uncle, his brother, which is a couple years older, he came in a couple years after that. So, continuing on, America's concentration camps to fight in Europe and the Pacific during World War II looked upon with suspicion. They're like, do we trust you? That's how they dealt with them, with suspicion, set apart and deprived of their constitutional rights. They nevertheless remained steadfast and served with indomitable spirit and uncommon valor, for theirs was a fight to prove loyalty. This legacy will serve as a sobering reminder that never again shall any group, not just Japanese Americans, any group be denied liberty and the rights of citizenship. So I need a volunteer. Can I use you? What's your name, buddy?
Juan.
Pardon me?
Juan.
Robert?
Juan.
Juan. So let's say Juan lives near the school. And then all of a sudden, someone robs a store, and they said, I think it was Juan. Really? And they describe him, and the police go to his house. Let's say I'm the police, and he grab him, put the cuffs on you, and take you in, take you to jail. And Juan goes, hey man, I wasn't even in town on that day. I was visiting my uncle in Los Angeles. Too bad, you're guilty. Would that be fair? Obviously not. Take him in, put him in jail or juvenile hall, whatever it might be, and then bring him before the judge. This is Juan, he's guilty, armed robbery, 5 to life. You go, what? That's not fair. I didn't even get a chance to tell my side. That's what happened to the Japanese Americans. My mom was in high school. She was a junior in high school. When she was there, they just came one day to the family and said, all right, let's go. Like, well, what are you talking about? So they took her, they took all the Japanese Americans that they could identify at that time, about 120,000, whether they were in college, whether they're in high school, middle school, they could have been in elementary. They said, you're going with us, we're placing you in a camp. They took the whole family, the moms, the dads, some of them owned houses, they had businesses, and guess what? Done. No more. It was over. It was over. So consequently after that, they lost everything. There's people that said, oh, well, with our business, yeah, Juan, I didn't mean to embarrass you at all. I hope you're okay. Says, they had a business and they go, well, we'll just go get some money and move our stuff. Go to the bank. They go, oh, you're so-and-so. Your money's frozen. The government's taking your money. They lost everything. Now, my mom grew up on a farm, and so after the internment time, which is about 3 years, she was able to come back to the farm because nobody took it over. Their family took all their possessions and they put it in a Quonset hut in the backyard. Farms, usually they're pretty large. It's a 70-acre farm. And so on a Quonset hut, and they stored all their furniture and everything, all their belongings, the things they couldn't take with them. Because when they took them to internment camp, they said, whatever you can grab, put it in the backpack, grab this, grab that, that's all you get to take. No TVs, no computers. Of course, they didn't have the internet at that time. But those kinds of things, so it's only whatever they could take. And they took them off, and they took some places, they're called assembly centers. They took them like to Santa Anita racetrack, and they stored them there till they get them placed into some of the homes. So how many of you, like this street right out here is called Mount Vernon. You come to the school, if you continue going down past Terrace View Elementary, and you go down the hill, what's that called? Anybody know? What's that called? It's called, what's that?
It starts with the J, guys.
Yeah, it's called Jap Hill. You know why it's called Jap Hill? Because at the bottom of the hill was one of those assembly centers where they got everybody, says, all right, let's go. Load them up in the truck, in the bus, went down to the train tracks, shipped you off to the internment camps. Did they get a chance to state their case? Nope. Did Juan get a chance to say, well, I wasn't even in town? Too bad, you're guilty. That's how they dealt with it. And my parents, my mom, when I talked with her later, I was doing a report in college, I go, hey mom, what do you know about this? She says, oh yeah, we were there. And I go, what? She didn't even tell me. Why? Because we weren't the kind of people, she wasn't the kind of people like, oh, well, it's not fair. These people treat us so bad. And because I said, mom, you should have called the cops and called the police and got a detective. And she says, no, we just said, we'll take care of business. Monku, don't complain. Move on with your life. And that's what they did. So that's the kind of thing that happened. So this is in Los Angeles right now. This little saying there about what happened. So because they deprived them of their constitutional rights, no due process, you don't get to tell your story, and that's what happened. So I think I would be mad. Would you be mad? I would be mad. It would bother me, but obviously they survived. So the 442, these are the decorations that the 442 had. They were considered the most highly decorated unit at that time, per capita. So what does per capita mean? That means for the amount of people they had the highest decorations of any battalion or unit at that time. So for example, let's just round numbers, let's say Terrace Hills is 1,000 students. When I came here, it was 1,100 students, 1,000 students. And 100 students made 4.0s. That's pretty good, 10% of the class, that's not bad, 10%, 100 compared to 1,000. Then, let's say you move into the area and go, well, the school that I went to, where I came from, they had 120 4.0 students, so that school is better than Terrace Hills. Oh, really? How big was that school? 5,000 students. Well, now that's not very good, is it? For 5,000 students and only have 120? But to have 1,000 students have 100, you see, that's the per capita. That's what I mean by that. This was not a large battalion. It was very small, smaller by comparison, but the most highly decorated. 21 Medal of Honors, 52 Distinguished Service Cross, 560 Silver Stars with 28 oak leaf clusters. Silver Star is where you do an act of bravery and you save someone's life. My uncle, my dad's brother, he got a Silver Star. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. 8 Distinguished Presidential Unit Citation. This is where the president comes to the unit and says, we hereby dawn on you and recognize you with the Presidential Unit Citation because of your bravery and the acts that you did in combat in war. They had 8 of them. 1 Distinguished Service Medal, 22 Legion of Merit, 9,486 Purple Hearts. Purple Heart, and we'll see pictures of it later, is when someone is wounded in war, in battle. My dad had 3 of them, 3 Purple Hearts. 3, so he's wounded 3 times. When I was a kid and growing up, my dad had a scar on the side of his head right here, on the side of his temple. It was about 3 or 4 inches long. I go, Dad, what's that scar from? He goes, oh, when I was in the Army, someone shot a gun and the bullet went right by and grazed my head. I went, what? You could have been killed. He goes, yeah, but I made it. They learned not to complain and they move on. So he got a scar right there, right on his head, creased. Still to that day I saw it, till the day he passed away, he had that scar. But it just helped us remember how fortunate we were and how we made it in life. What's the time again? I forgot. 9 what?
9/12.
9/12, okay. So the other time he got shot, if you take this bone right on your body, right here on your leg, the lower part of your leg, that's a shin bone. Well, he had a scar on one side of the shin bone and on the other side of the shin bone. That was a bullet that went through there. And I went, oh my gosh, it broke your bone, because it was right on. He goes, no, my bone didn't break. Somehow it passed through, went under or around or something, and came out and never broke the shin bone. The other one is a little embarrassing, but who knows what shrapnel is? Any of you guys know what shrapnel is? Okay, what's shrapnel?
It's like little metal fragments that are in like grenades and stuff that.
Okay. So when an explosive device goes off, it leaves little metal chunks, right? Can we say that? In war, it would be like some sort of a cannon or a projectile like that. Well, my dad, when I was a kid, so this is several years later, 2 or 3 decades, my mom, who was a nurse, he goes, Margie, calling my mom, come here. He was taking a shower. He goes, I got something right here on the right cheek. And I went, what? Are you telling me this story? You got to be kidding me. She goes, I see. So she went and got a scalpel, cut it open, and it was a piece of shrapnel. It had been there for decades. And that was the 3rd time he got recognized for getting Purple Heart, because he was wounded for that. So that's what the Purple Heart is for. Bronze Star was for bravery. My father got one of those. And then it goes on to these participation medals as well. So this is in Los Angeles. The other one I showed you, I read the thing about go for broke. Go for broke was the catchphrase or cliche for the 442. They had a lot of casualties. The company C that my dad was in, he said before him, they replaced another company. Every person at unit was wiped out. They were all killed. So to me, I'm like a little boy going, what? My dad almost died. You got to be kidding me. Let's make sure I'm glad you were safe. So this goes on. His name, I'm kneeling down. That's his name right there, that my hand is right by there. So his name is on there right now in Los Angeles at the 442 Museum. And this is a plaque put in Coachella. Anybody know where Coachella is at? All right, you do, Coachella? Anybody know where Palm Springs is at? You heard Palm Springs, right? Well, if you continue on the 10 freeway, you hit Indio. After Indio, you start going south to Coachella, then Thermal, and if you go to Glamis, it's way out there. But my dad was the city manager in Coachella, the city of Coachella. And they put this plaque up for him, his picture, 3 Purple Hearts, Bronze Star. This is the 442 symbol, that little hand holding the torch. And this is a symbol for being in the Army. They recognized him for all this. It's in the city right now. I have a pastor friend. My wife and I are both pastors. But I have a pastor friend who said, he contacted me, hey, I saw this picture. He took a picture and he goes, who's that? I go, oh, that's my dad. Because your dad was a war hero. And he saw all these things like, oh, private first class, not a lieutenant, not a general, but he did his thing, what he had to do. So this is down in Coachella right now. They have that down there. So this is my dad, private first class. My sister, who probably doesn't really delve a lot on the internet, got to searching one day and she found an article from 1945. That's a long time ago. That's like 80 years ago, guys. A long time ago. March 23rd, 1945, in the Orangetown Telegram in Pearl River. Remember, my dad grew up in an orphanage, so this is a New York-based article in the paper. This is the title of the article. With the boys in service, the tried and true Tasakas, that's my dad and his brother, my uncle, they gave their best when it came to the tests. That's the article. That's the article. So my dad was 5'8", he's a little taller than me, and my mom was shorter than me. My uncle was short like my mom. He had the Silver Star for bravery, for saving someone's life, as well as the Purple Heart, and my dad had the Bronze Star. So in here they're talking, pictured above is Arthur Tasaka, that's my uncle, and brother Henry Tasaka, my dad. And they go on talking about what happened. They said Spring Valley, we're so proud of them. They went in the war. They survived. They're part of this reputable company, the 442. If you study history, you look up the 442, it's just amazing the things that they did. The bravery, the courage, the valor that they had. And it goes on to say down in this section how Arthur, my uncle, had actually saved a person's life. They were under orders to retreat, and he said, my friend's out there, and amidst fire and guns flying, he went out to his friend, gave medical care, brought him back, saved his life. He got the Silver Star. There's recognition for that. So that was a lot of courage, I would say. You know, today we see brave acts like this in the Army all the time. But somehow this one was caught and recognized. Even if you right now, if you go to Google and just Google the 442 and things like that happened, I saw one guy, it's called A Fat Electrician on YouTube. He cussed a lot and everything, but he told stories about the Japanese Americans. It just made your skin crawl like, wow, you have to be kidding. They did all that? It was amazing. So these are the medals my father had. American campaign, European, African, Middle Eastern campaign. Campaigns are when they go out on the excursions, they go out and fight. That's the symbol for the 442. These two represented where they traveled in Europe and Africa. He was not a sniper, but he was a rifleman. They took his gun and he was able to blindfolded, take the gun apart and put it back together. Because that's what they might have to do in a foxhole or if they're out in the military. So that's what they did. This one shows that participation in the Army and with the Germany band, because he participated in that. And here we have another one for World War II. And notice this one. This is interesting. Efficiency, honor, fidelity. Does that have anything to do with shooting guns? No. Does that have anything to do with killing people? No. Does that have anything to do with... No, this is a character reference here. This is something that represents who you are and what you do. And you know what I hope someday? Someday I hope all of you go to high school, get your high school diploma. Some of you that want to go to college, you want to move on, that's fine. No problem with that. But that you all become productive citizens. And when someone hears your name, hey, there's so-and-so, I would hope that they would think of some words like this. Efficiency, honor, fidelity, truthfulness, integrity, respect. So when someone talks about you, they go, oh yeah, there you go. So my dad, this is a true story, he was a city manager, and after he retired, he did a private business where he did a lot of planning and development for developers, which, all the maps and the topography maps and things like that. He did that for them. And I was there with him one day, and one of the developers said, Tasaka, Henry Tasaka. I goes, I know that name. You're not the Tasaka that was involved in the city of Coachella and city man. I go, yes, I was. That was me. And he goes, wow, I can't believe it. This is what he said. How can someone as honest as you be involved in city politics? Because a lot of times city politics, there's a lot of, we want this done. They do deals under the table and those kinds of things. And he just wasn't like that. That was a compliment. I would hope someday they would say that about you and you and you and everyone in here. They have those kinds of compliments that would be, hey, those are great observations about your life. So going on, this is the Bronze Star for an act of bravery and valor in combat. My father received the Bronze Star. And here's her Purple Heart. Notice there's 2 little oak leaf clusters there. This represents that he received 3 Purple Hearts, but they don't give him 3. They give you 1, and then they add the oak leaf clusters as you get them. So if someone may have 1 oak leaf cluster or 2, I don't know if they have 3. I imagine they put it up there somehow. But that's what he had. And we have this. I have this right now. I put it in a monument box with a flag, etc. I'll show you that later. Purple Heart. George Washington, August 7th. August 7th is Purple Heart Day. So on August 7th, I try to post something online saying, hey, my dad was in World War II, part of the 442, earned 3 Purple Hearts. And usually a lot of people respond to that with a lot of respect. So Purple Heart, number 1. Number 2, number 3. 3 Purple Hearts, because he was wounded. Goes on, this is the Bronze Star Medal. It talks about how achievement in ground combat against an armed enemy during World War II, European, African, Middle Eastern theater of operations. So this just represented bravery and the fact they were fighting in war at the ground level. This is in Coachella. Anybody know where Coachella's at? Coachella or Indio? Anyway, out there, there's a cemetery. It's sort of like on the borderline between two cities. They have a section, a special section, reserved for the combat veterans, people that have been wounded in war, which is the Purple Heart. So they have this right now. This is in Coachella. This is my dad. It's Company C, 100th Battalion, 442nd Regimental Combat Team. World War II, Italy, France, one of the only battalions that walked the streets of France. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, that's what he earned. My uncle, same thing, but he was Company G, and then he was Silver Star and Purple Heart. So this is in Coachella right now. You can see they can go and have plaques there set up there. This is a section in the cemetery. This is a pretty tall monument set up for that, showing the Purple Hearts, acts of bravery, being wounded in war. And unfortunately, if someone is killed in war, they too receive a Purple Heart, and it's given to their family. So a lot of recognition for that. This is in Grand Terrace. Welcome to the city of Grand Terrace. Veterans Freedom Park. I was giving this presentation in Mr. Sager's class. Anybody know Mr. Sager here? Anybody have? Okay. I was in his class giving a presentation, and one of the students, her mom was on the committee for the Veterans Freedom Park. She said, "Mom, guess what I heard today?" Mr. Tasaka came and talked about his dad, one of the most highly decorated units, and so forth and so on, went on and on and on. She gave an application to give to me to fill out and put my father's name on it and some of his recognitions, and it's in the Pico Park right now, Veterans Park, right over here by the high school. It's sort of down toward this end of the letters because they have the words freedom. And you'll see all kinds. There's Army, there's Navy, there's the Marines, etc. But this is where he's at. I took my picture by that to show that. So he got a lot of recognition. Okay, something happened. Where's Miss Jenny? I can't advance. My battery's down, or?
Did it go?
Okay, yeah. So my father, there we go. I'm going too fast now. I'm a pastor also, so I did my father's funeral service. He died in September of 2017. And this flag is the flag I'll show you in a bit. I put it in a monument box. And they literally do this, 21 gun salute. They fold the flag, and they gave it to me. I'm the youngest in the family. I have an older brother and older sister, and they said, "Oh, no, you take it." It's like, me? Really? I was like honored to take it, but it's like, my brother, you don't want it? So I took it, and I put it in a monument box for recognition. And so this is one of the last pictures we had of my dad. Before he passed away, my niece took it. And this also shows for distinguished service in the armed forces. That's the monument box. That's that flag, the same flag. And there are all the medals that he was awarded. On this side, here's the Purple Heart and Bronze Star. And that was a picture we put in that monument box. Now we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit more about my mom. That's my mom on that side, my brother's little baby. This is grandma on my mom's side. Say bachan. Bachan. A little louder, guys. Bachan. 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 That's grandma in Japanese. And then there's ji-chan. Say ji-chan. Ji-chan. That would be grandpa. Now, on my mom's side of the family, all I knew was bachan. I never knew ji-chan. Being Sansei, third generation, and not only that, I was on the younger end of third generation, so I didn't see, there's a lot of things I didn't see. And of course, my dad's mom and dad, because he was raised in an orphanage, we never saw his grandparents. I'm not even sure if he saw his parents, which would be my grandparents. So this is a map of relocation centers. They had 10 of them in the United States. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They go back as far back as Arkansas. And they mainly focused on Japanese Americans on the West Coast and Hawaii. They placed them in these relocation centers. They placed them in these internment camps. They placed them in the concentration camps. They're sort of referred to in all those descriptions. If you notice Poston, remember the picture of the California and Arizona? This is Poston. It's in Arizona. That's where my mom and her family was at. It'd be my mom and her brother. She had a sister, but she was in Japan, and obviously at that time, you're not going to fly back to the United States. And then her mom and dad. And they lived in the concentration camps in Poston, and that's where they're at. It's the largest one, 20,000 people. And if you look at other ones, Manzanar is probably the most popular. If you look up right now online, you just go Japanese internment camps, Manzanar will probably come up. Because they made a historical site, you can go visit them. Every year people migrate there and they check it out. They look at it. I mean, I saw pictures of nice, bright, shiny wood, polished. They look really nice, like a nice plush hotel almost. They go, Dude, it was not that nice there. I know it wasn't, because it was an internment camp. They were placed there under suspicion. We don't know about you guys. So out of 120,000 Japanese Americans that were placed there, guess how many they found out were actual spies? Anybody want to take a guess? None. None. Zero. So like we were talking about due process, they didn't get a chance to give it. And they had zero. They detected no one. So this is where my mom was at. And this is right by the river, the Colorado River. And it's on Indian property. Colorado River Indian tribe, Crit. It's on their property. So what happened was when they made the deal with Crit, the government, and to bring in the Japanese people at that time, there were a lot of farmers. That's what my dad did. He was a farmer. They brought that down as farmer before he went into the city. And they taught and shared a lot of farming skills with the Indians because the river's right there. They had irrigation processes. They did all these things, and it really worked out positive in that sense. So that worked out really well. So this is my grandmother, Yoshikono. This is a directory. I did a family search for the Poston, calls the Poston Preserve, and it shows her year of birth. Notice this, 1425D. Recognize that. Remember that. Then it goes on the enter date and departure date, 1945. Recognize 1945. Are my batteries down? Is it? Okay, this is my mom. But her departure date is 1944. How come? Because toward the end of the internment time, she volunteered to go to school to become a nurse. She'd always wanted to become a nurse. So she went to Chicago to be a nurse. That's when, what bell was that?
7.
What's that?
7 bell.
Oh, okay. So that's when she went there to become a nurse and went to deliver babies. So she delivered babies for 45 years. So, you know, I like numbers, so I went back and I talked with her and how many babies a month at the hospital. You know, she could have delivered as many as 30,000 babies, 30 to 45,000. That's a lot of babies. But she enjoyed what she did. So 1425D, this is Poston 1. This section right here is called 42. This is the camp address. 5, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, I don't know which one it is. Section D, I think I know what that means too. These are the homes they made for them to live in. 25 feet wide, 100 feet long, and they broke it up into 4 sections. So each section was 25 by 25. That became their house. You say, well, that's not too bad. How many of you have a 2-car garage where you live? All right, you've been, okay. If you have a 2-car garage, if you take half and add it on to the end, that was the size of all their dwellings. You might have owned a house before, but you're living in this little cubicle now. You might have had your own business, but you're living in this little cubicle now. That was it. And was it great? I mean, they didn't have, you know, I think it was a communal bathroom, meaning you go to the bathroom somewhere else. And if you had a brother or sister or siblings, I mean, that's like, you live there. That's where you live. So this is one example of what it was to live in that 25 by 25 cubicle. Now, I'd be okay if they're a little tiny kid, right? How many of you have an older brother or sister? Yeah, we probably see a lot of you do. How would you like to live in the same place with them? No privacy. No, you can hang a sheet. And if you snore a lot, they're going to know you snore a lot and you're not in your own bedroom. So it was not as pretty as it sounds. Excuse me. If you notice their facial expressions, because the Japanese didn't complain, they're not complaining. They're not going, what am I doing in this rank place? I hate me. No, they didn't complain. This is an example of schools with little children in one class. Were they teachers? Well, they probably acted like teachers, but were they credentialed teachers like you have? No. My mom was pulled out of high school in the junior year. And when they went to the internment camps, some of the kids that were in college, older than her, came back and taught her what you would consider the junior year and the senior year. But did she get a diploma? No, no. Did little elementary kids get a certificate of completion and go to middle school? No. Did a college student get that? No. They probably had ceremonies, but it wasn't a quote-unquote an official diploma. They just met for school. They made the best of their circumstances. Now, sometimes we think, well, you know, I got, life's tough for me, man. If I was so-and-so, they're rich, they have their own this and their own. You know what? Just do what you're supposed to do and deal with the hand you're dealt with and say, this is what I'm going to do. And make the best of your circumstance. That's what she did. This is a statue of Mother Cabrini. There was a movie about her not too long ago released. She was a canonized saint, and she opened the grade school, orphanage, hospitals, a school of nursing. Guess where my mom went to school of nursing at? Mother Cabrini School of Nursing in Chicago. She only lived to be 67 years old. To me, that's young, because I'm older than that. But nonetheless, that's where she went, to nursing school. And this is modern day Poston right now. They have this monument there. People look at it, they observe it, they check it out. You can go there. The houses in the back are not the barracks that they lived in. I don't think so. It's just the surrounding area. And this is all on Indian property. President Reagan. You know what President Reagan did? In 1988, he gave and signed what's called the redress. This is to acknowledge that under the previous president that signed Executive Order 9066, what placed him in internment, President Reagan, after 40 years, realized, hey, we made a mistake. Absolutely no Japanese spies. No one was caught for espionage. It didn't happen. The Nisei generation were born here. They were like citizens of the United States. So what happened? He signs an order, and in the order, it talks about forgiveness for racial prejudice. Racial prejudice. They were forgiven for that, and then they were given $20,000 each per family as like a token of, hey, you know, we're sorry for what happened. And you say, well, 20 grand is a lot of money. Do you think 20,000 is a lot of money? All right, well, you might think it is, but just think about this. What do your parents pay for rent or a mortgage? I bet you some of you out there, someone pays $2,000 a month. 10 months is 20 grand. That wouldn't even last a year. So it's estimated that $400 million of lost property and businesses happened to the Japanese Americans. And they didn't even get a tenth of it back. So this is a perfect opportunity to say, I'm complaining, I'm getting mad. Like I told my mom, she goes, no monku, don't complain, let's just move on, make the best of life. This is the gravestone for my parents. My mom, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and that's the symbol, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's the symbol American Medical Association. It's a cross with a snake on it. It represents healing, and the god of healing out of the Greek gods. That's what it's for. And then my dad on his, they're side by side. Purple Heart, Army of Participation, and then Bronze Star. That's what he had. 2 minutes, 1 minute? All right, real quick. On both sides of my family, there's samurai blood. This is the Bushido, 7 virtues: integrity, honor, loyalty, respect, courage, honesty, sincerity, and compassion. These are all qualities, sometimes they're not, you don't read it in a book and figure it out. I would hope that someday you acquire, attain, keep, hold on to these types of virtues that people can look at you and say, hey, I know what that's all about. I know what that's all about. Any questions? Questions, Q&A. You guys probably need your coffee right now, right? Right. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Janaki.